Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Cube Vanguard. So it's been 2 weeks because I was busy as a bee. Just very busy, so I didn't have time to do the recordings. But this week I'm back with the Kasten documentation series. Now, before I start that, I always like to digress, or as Rick Vanover says, go off campus, as I did in Miami when I went down the South Beach and walked around during the pre-Memorial Day exhibitions. They had like all sorts of military equipment, and it wasn't really VMON related, but I put it in my VMON post. So I'm going to digress. And so what I want to remind everybody about today is, again, about how bad brain dumps are, okay? So, these companies, they're saying, hey, we've got the real questions, we can sell them to you, it'll be easy, you can pass the exam, go to your boss, get a raise, and la, 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 la. Okay, so first of all, think of the name, brain dump. I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not very proud of the story at all. In fact, it's a big shame, and I have nightmares about it. One summer when I was young, I went and got a job, which paid quite a lot of money, and hence I went and got the job. The name of the job sounded relatively okay. It was like, the Department of the Ecology or something, or Disposal, whatever. I don't remember. It's not very official. People ask you when you're young, late teenage years, where do you work? Well, I work in the department for whatever. It sounds really cool. The fact of the matter, it was a garbage dump. I'm not joking. It was a garbage dump in the summer. That's where I worked, okay? So what happened? Well, I experienced COVID isolation before COVID existed. Because if you work in the garbage dump all day long, it doesn't matter how many times you take a bath or shower or put perfume on, you smell like a dump, okay? So at first I go out with my friends, they stopped going out with me. I was dumped by my girlfriend. Everything went wrong, all because I worked at a dumb garbage dump, okay? And I needed the money, so I had to continue working there all summer. And I just spent a very lonely summer because I worked at a garbage dump. So anything with the word dump in it now just drives me nuts. Brain dumps included. So on a serious note, getting away from my tragic past, let's face it, what's the point of certification? I'm going to say this quickly again. I've talked about it before. The point of the certification is the learning, the process. It's not the dumb piece of paper. The piece of paper in 2 or 3 years is worthless anyways, right? Because technology moves on. But the process, the learning process, how you prepare yourself, how you psychologically prepare yourself, how you get ready for exams, how you keep calm and cool, training, doing over and over again, you get better and better, and then it doesn't matter what the subject is or what the exam is, you have a good chance of being successful because you are practiced, you are trained, okay? Shelling out money for quick answers is not going to do it. Second of all, first interview you get, if they're good interviewers, they will figure out that you don't know what you're talking about, okay? Third, if you have any moral kind of conscience, you are destroying the certification process, okay? There are a lot of people out there who don't make very much money, they're students, whatever. They buy these things, great hopes that it'll help them in their careers, and by watering down the certification, by buying brain dumps, whoever's using these things, they're hurting everybody else, okay? So don't do it. Okay, that's my rant for the day. Let's get back to Kasten documentation. So I don't know if I talked about this before. Let's switch our little screen here. But Kasten 6 came out. There's a whole bunch of goodies there. There have been some great posts on Kasten 6. If you go to the Veeam Community Hub, there's some great posts there. One came out this week by a fellow called Luis. I have to look at his name again. But you'll find it. It's great, very in-depth about K10 version 6. Okay, well, what are we going to look at today? We today are going to look at the documentation, and we're going to move on to the next little area. And I'm saying little area, it's not, it's huge. So I don't know if we'll fit in that much today, but we'll try. Last time we did accessing K10, and that has its own trickiness, but I think we got through it. There was a few questions after that too. People approached me on the Kubernetes Corner in private messages and asked me some questions. Feel free to do that. Come to the Kubernetes Corner where I'm one of the leaders, and you can ask me a question. I'll try to answer it correctly, hopefully. So today we're going to using K10. Sorry, here using K10, and right away we're gonna have to separate this section. Obviously, this is huge, okay, and there's a lot of different parts of it. But let's look at the dashboard overview. One thing I will say, and you'll see this right away, is that when you actually open the dashboard for the first time, you get welcome to K10 dashboard. And you can take a quick tour, okay? And it's well worth doing. And I think you can even take the tour anytime. If there's somewhere a button there, take the tour. Well worth doing. But here's the part of the documentation which goes, again, what I like about documentation, it's very clear. It's not heavy documentation. It's pleasant to look at. The colors are nice. It's not too bunched up text, and there are little, diagrams in there as well. So the system overview, you got settings here you can right click. So we're going to go to our own dashboard in a second. I just want to show you what it looks like on the actual documentation, okay? So this is pretty straightforward. Again, it's not a very long page, and it's giving you basically the general information about the dashboard, okay? However, you can go into little subsections here, like location profiles, blueprints. We talked about that before in another show, and other things. We're going to go into those in a second, but I just wanted to show you the first page. Okay, manual actions, so it gets quite a lot there. So let's go to our little Kasten installed. Now, there's my tour. Do you want to take the tour? Sure. Well, you can say no thanks if you want. I like how polite there. No thanks. Let's take the tour and see what it says. Okay, so next. So it's a pretty basic tour, but it's nice, I think the first time I ever opened Kasten, I think it was there, and I think I took it, and right away, it was good. Except I can tell you right off the bat, if you're an experienced IT person, and you can start the guided tour anytime here from settings, it's so intuitive, you don't even need the tour. But hey, if you want to take the tour, if you show it to your sales department, they like tours and things like that, show them that. So here we are, and we're going to start using K10. So the dashboard is the overview in the first part of the documentation we're looking at. And again, what's there to really not understand here? It's so simple. Applications, policies, usage, and reports. I've got one backup in there, so it's showing completed actions. It's very, very nice and very simple, okay? Again, a simple cover for something that underneath is much more complicated, and I like that because at the higher level, you want simplification so you can perform tasks quickly and get them out of the way, and also so you can delegate to other people who maybe don't have as deep an understanding of the subject, okay? So really, if I look at the dashboard, what I want to do, well, one of the things I'll point out here, which is in documentation as well, is that when you do load an application into your cluster, it will show up under unmanaged, okay? So we'll go into unmanaged, and I've just got the default namespace there because everything else I am managing. So it's very easy then to just create a policy. Now, I'm not going to create a policy for the default namespace, and this is by namespaces, by the way. You want your application to be namespaces. It's nice, it's ordered, and also you can do things like apply network policies and things like that on namespaces. That's going a little deeper in Kubernetes, but for our purposes of the dashboard, let's just say that the applications are shown namespace-wise here. Okay, so I could just go from here and create a policy and go next, next, next. It's that simple. All right, so what else do we see on the dashboard? Well, we see compliant, non-compliant. Very cool. Right away, you see if things are working or not at a glance. So if I had a policy which was not working, which had a problem of some kind, it would be in non-compliant. But I have one that's compliant, so let's press that. And it's Nginx, my favorite Nginx, and it's going to tell me that I've got 2 restore points, and it was done today. It's done before the show. And so I can just press this, and this, I think we've seen this before. This is the restore. Again, select an instance. One's local, one's exported to a local Minayo. I have S3. But again, it's extremely straightforward, okay? So the dashboard lets you right into that. And then it also shows you your policies, okay? Now, what we can do here, though, to show you something else, which is a lot of fun, is I have the one backup policy you've just seen, it's the Nginx one. Here's, you go into policies, it'll show you a description of what it's doing and what the retention is. However, what I don't have here, and we've probably seen this, and you've been pointing, Jeff, look at the corner of the screen, look. There's a big 1 next to the bell, which probably is a notification of some kind. Yes, it is. This is a fresh install, and I was lazy, as usual. I did not create, what? A Kasten DR policy. I knew you were going to say that. So it's happily and very politely telling me, hey, Jeff, K10 DR is not enabled. Now, what's K10 DR? We've talked about this before as well. It's you can create a disaster recovery for your Kasten, okay, for the entire Kasten. Why is that good? Because then if you have like a lot of applications and you want to restore, you don't want to restore them individually, you can restore your entire K10 to a different location as long as it has access to the S3, okay, where your backup should be. And then without having to use secrets and things like that, you can restore all of those applications a lot quicker. Again, later on at some point, we'll talk about that more in depth, but you should enable this. This just makes no sense not to enable, so I will do that. Let's go to K10 DR settings, and we're going to enable it. Now, for this to be enabled, you have to have a location profile, okay? A lot of big words here, location profile. All that is an S3. It could be Amazon, it could be Azure. This is a Minio, a local one, but you have to have that, okay? Or an NFS, you can do NFS as well. Let's go back to disaster recovery. So I'm going to enable disaster recovery. Okay, it's going to ask me to choose a profile. Now, the profile, I could have more than one, but in my case, I've only got one, S3, so I'll choose that. And this, I think they've actually improved. What do you want to use as far as a passphrase? Now, the passphrase is important because if you want to restore, you obviously don't want anyone to restore your K10, right? So you're going to use a passphrase to protect this, okay? A long encrypted one. You could use a HashiCorp Vault secret, an AWS secret. Those I think are new. In my case, I'm just going to use, my own local little secret. Somewhat weak, somewhat strong, doesn't matter. I'll enable it. And it has now been enabled, okay? So my disaster recovery has been enabled. The little notification here on the dashboard is gone, okay? And if we go back to our dashboard, right away we see we now have two policies. So it's a policy just like my other policy, okay? And there it is. It hasn't run yet. Well, why don't we run it? Now, again, I always underline this. I love this run once little character here. I mean, if I don't have my glasses on, I've said this before, I can't tell what's written there, but I see the little fellow running. I know that means run the policy. So that's what I'll do. We'll run the policy. You can have an optional snapshot expiration too, okay, which is pretty cool. That means it'll get rid of the snapshot at a certain point in time. So let's go back to the dashboard now and see it running. There it is. And again, look how intuitive that was on the dashboard. We're talking about dashboard today. We're not talking about DR, but I want to show you just how simple it is. You go in there and it's extremely intuitive. If you have worked with backup software before, if you worked with any software before, this stuff just sticks out. It's easy. My former organization, I took one of the sales people, not even a sales engineer, okay, a real salesperson. And I said, create a backup. And they did it. And I'm not saying salespeople don't know how to do things like that, but if this was not a technical salesperson, that's how intuitive Kasten is. So this person created a Kubernetes backup. They can go to the bar, the pub, and say, "Hey, I created a Kubernetes backup." Whoa, look out! Little do they know, but that's how simple it is. And you want something like that for back. Oh, and look, it's finished already. Look how quick that is. It's green, completed. I have my K10 run. Okay, we'll have to continue. This is probably going to be 2 or 3 shows, the dashboard, because it's so simple, but it's so good. You just want to look at every little piece. Still have a bit of time, like 13 minutes. Usage reports a bit bigger. Maybe I will leave that for next time. But look at here, you got the docs here. So let's say you're looking at something, you don't understand something. You can just press this and it opens another window. And look where we are. Isn't that convenient? Takes you right to the dashboard documentation. Okay, so that's really cool. You've got your settings. Here you've got your users, okay, notifications. And again, if we press on these runs that took place, these backup runs, it gives us much more detail. Okay, so that is the Kasten K10 dashboard. We're going to come back next week. We're going to talk a bit more about the dashboard because it's so fun. But keep in mind, it's simple for a reason, because you want to be able to do things well and quickly. And no matter how good you are at Kubernetes, everybody makes mistakes. So when you have a nice, simple panel in front of you, which is quick and intuitive and easy to understand, it reduces the chance of forgetting something, of making a mistake. You will have your backups and your organization will be protected. Okay, we'll see you next week on the Kasten, not the Kasten, the Kube Vanguard. I'm just getting brainwashed by Kasten. Kube Vanguard, and we'll see you next week and talk again about Kasten documentation and about the Kasten dashboard. Thank you very much. See you next week.